Okay, let's get right into it. We're all looking at some of the biggest challenges humanity has ever faced. Climate change, social division, the list goes on. But what if the answer isn't just some new policy or a fancy piece of tech? What if it's about a total shift in how we see the world itself? That's what we're going to explore today, this idea of a new worldview built for transformation. When you look at our planet like this, you see two things at once, right? It's incredibly beautiful, but it's also so obviously fragile. This is our one shared home, and yet the systems we've built are, well, they're pushing it to the absolute limit. Our entire future really comes down to one simple truth. We are all in this together, deeply interconnected. This quote just hits the nail on the head. The crises we're seeing, they aren't a bunch of separate problems. They're all symptoms of something much deeper, a fundamental misalignment between our human-made systems and the reality of our living planet. We're basically trying to solve interconnected problems with a fragmented mindset, and it's just not working. So here's the journey we're going to take together. First, we'll get a handle on this idea of a polycrisis. Then we'll unpack the old fragmented worldview that got us here. After that, we'll explore the new worldview of interdependence, see why consciousness is the real key to the shift, look at a tool designed to help make it happen, and wrap up with the big evolutionary choice that we all face. All right, first up, let's talk about this word polycrisis. You're probably hearing it more and more, and for good reason. It really captures the tangled mess of our global situation, because it's so much more than just a list of separate problems. So a polycrisis isn't just about having a lot of problems at once. It's about how all these crises, climate, ecological, political, they crash into each other, and they actually make each other worse. Think of it like a tangled web, where pulling on one thread just tightens all the others. And they all point to that same root issue. The way we're living is just out of sync with the planet. And when you boil it all down, this isn't just some external logistical problem. It's a relational one. The breakdown we're seeing out there in our ecosystems and in our societies is really just a mirror reflecting a breakdown in our relationship with nature and, with each other. So where did this crisis of relationship even come from? Well, it's rooted in a worldview that's been dominant for a long time, but is now, well, it's dangerously outdated. It's a worldview based on fragmentation. This image gives us a really powerful metaphor for it, a world of boxes. In this mindset, we see everyone and everyone as separate competing units. Tribalism draws lines between us and them. Egotism makes it all about individual gain. And consumption becomes the main goal, no matter what the cost is to the whole. And this worldview has some pretty clear rules. It's all about extraction over regeneration, taking from the earth instead of healing it. It's about competition over cooperation. It prioritizes short-term profits over the long-term health of, well, everyone and everything. And it treats complex systems, from forests to communities, like they're just isolated parts to be used up. Okay, but if that's the problem, what's the solution? This brings us to a totally different way of seeing things, an emerging worldview. It's one that sees the world not as a bunch of boxes, but as one living, breathing, interconnected system, a world of interdependence. And here is the total flip side of that other image, a world of symbiosis. Instead of building walls and bigger boxes, we're all tending a garden together. The goal shifts completely. It's not about winning, it's about contributing to a healthy, flourishing ecosystem for everyone. This is all about conscious collaboration and regeneration. This chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. We move away from competition and toward conscious collaboration. We shift from an extractive mindset to a regenerative one. Tribalism, which only divides us, gives way to synergy, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that feeling of isolation gets replaced by a deep, lived understanding of our interconnection. So, we have these two completely different worldviews. But how in the world do we get from one to the other? This isn't just about passing a new law or changing a policy. It's so much deeper than that. It's about changing ourselves. The core shift, the real engine of this transformation, begins with human consciousness. And that's the massive question, isn't it? I mean, when we're talking about transforming our entire civilization, where do you possibly start? The answer is actually both simpler and way more profound than you might think. The answer is, it begins right here, inside each of us. This diagram shows how our individual thoughts, our intentions, the way we treat each other, it all ripples outwards. It shapes this thing called a collective consciousness, and it's that shared awareness that makes a new way of being possible for society as a whole. In other words, changing the system starts with changing ourselves. Basically, our world out there, our governments, our economies, our cities, it's a direct mirror of our collective inner world. So to transform those systems, we first have to transform ourselves. You just can't build a collaborative world from a competitive mindset. It doesn't work. But, okay, how do we take this from a really cool philosophical idea and turn it into something practical? Scaling a new consciousness actually requires new kinds of tools. And this brings us to something called the Phoenix platform. This is the symbol for Phoenix. And it's important to know, this isn't just another app or social network. It's envisioned as a piece of global infrastructure, something designed specifically to help humanity make that leap, from fragmentation to coherence, from competition to conscious collaboration. So what is it exactly? Well, think of it like an operating system for the entire planet. Its whole purpose is to help coordinate the thousands upon thousands of amazing regenerative projects that are already happening all over the world. It lets us respond to that polycrisis not as a bunch of scattered groups, but as one unified collaborative species. And the logic behind it is actually pretty straightforward. First, instead of everyone working in their own separate competing silos, it helps create shared governance where every voice can actually matter. Second, it uses incredible tools like AI and trust verification to see what we as a collective actually need and want. And third, instead of fighting over resources we think are scarce, it helps us design systems that are naturally regenerative and create abundance for all of us. This is a fantastic way to think about Phoenix as the living connective tissue for a new regenerative civilization. It doesn't come in and replace what people are already doing. Instead, it connects them. It weaves all these thousands of local projects into one coherent, global tapestry of positive change. And this brings us to our final section, and really to the heart of this entire conversation. We're standing at a major crossroads. The path we decide to take next isn't just another decision. It is a conscious, evolutionary choice for all of humanity. And here it is, the two paths laid out right in front of us. On one side, you have the world of boxes, more fragmentation, more extraction, and ultimately collapse. On the other side, a world of symbiosis, a vibrant, thriving planet powered by conscious collaboration. The contrast, honestly, it couldn't be more stark. So this isn't a prediction of what the future will be, it's an invitation to create it. The tools are showing up, the new worldview is taking hold, and the need for change has never been more obvious. The only question left is the one right here on this slide. Which future are we going to choose to create together?